I'm so happy to be here. Thank you to the organizers for having me. I'm Aris. I'm lots of things, so I'll get to it. And for the time that I have, do some introductions about who I am, talk about some definitions, some working definitions. I'm less theoretical. The way that I like to say it is I like to walk imperfectly than to remain perfect theoretically, right? And so I'm going to talk about lots of mistakes that I've made and all that other stuff. Some examples, I'm going to engage with you all. This will be super informal also. I do not have enough time, so I'm going to run out of time for sure. I also am the executive director of the National Association of Mathematicians, and our business meeting is at 11. So I cannot do the panel afterwards. So, but you will have opportunities to contact with, stay with me. I'm here all day also, and you can come to the business meeting. So if you want to, and then we'll wrap up. Norms, I don't have to say these things, but I definitely just want to make sure we're going to be respectful, all that other stuff, right? We're not going to solve every single problem during these 30 minutes. Hang with me for this time. Pay attention to how much you're talking, and then I have a space where we can put up some comments, and that's anonymous. Excited about those comments. Say what needs to be said. I'm Aris Winger. The greatest honor I have in the world is to be the father of my daughter, who is probably happy now because she gets a lollipop today and some ginger ale. The light of my life is my wife, who is back in Atlanta right now. I'm a Black person in the United States of America. I am an associate professor at Gwinnett College, and I just opened up a few years ago an alternative middle and high school in northern Atlanta for marginalized populations. And so I was just texting with a parent a moment ago about some linear algebra. And then I have the honor of being the sidekick to Pamela Harris in a book series on advocating for students of color in math. I mentioned the executive director piece, and I'm also the co-director of Creating Opportunities in Mathematics through, we're in DC, so I can say equity and inclusion. So, yes, so a little stuff. For this time, I just want us to remind ourselves that comfort or outstanding, you only get to be one. You only get to be one. Comfortable or outstanding. So I came here to try to be outstanding. So I might say some uncomfortable things. So particularly for us who are teachers, when you're comfortable, someone in your purview might be suffering. And if you walk into the classroom, oh my goodness, good morning, I'm feeling it. When you walk into the classroom and you think you got it, you figured it out, you're in the groove, right? That type of comfort doesn't allow us to see some of the suffering that's in our spaces. So let's push towards outstanding, and that means we can't be comfortable. That means that I might say something uncomfortable in just a moment, right? And so I'm dedicating this talk to Jalan Ali, who literally has just finished writing the book on compassionate mathematics, right? And so someone who's influenced me a lot, I had the honor of writing the foreword to that book, right? And so for some reason, right, her interaction with the organizers has left my friend disrespected, not feeling good, bothered, right? And so I was initially not going to come and do this talk, and yet somehow, here I am, right? Because whatever it is that we're going to talk about what compassionate means, it means that I have to be here. It means that she and I spoke about how it's important for me to be here, for us to move forward in the discipline, because this is what we need to create the best discipline in the world, right? We need compassion. And so I dream of a moment in which I'm standing next to my sister and we're doing this together and talking with everybody. And so that was very uncomfortable for me to say, but I hope that pushes us towards being awesome. So, good morning.
Thank you, guys.
Definition, one of the ones that I like is from this book, Compassionate Leadership. And it says that compassion is empathy plus action. And this is not going to be perfect, not theoretical, right? But I'm stepping imperfectly as opposed to just staying still, theoretically perfect, right? And so I just want to unpack some empathy and action, really unpacking empathy there, but a really, really good book as well. Empathy, do I care about how you feel? Dirty definition, right? Do I care about how you feel? We put both of those together. Compassion is, do I care about how you feel enough to do something, right? And so I'm always asking these two questions. Do I care about how you feel as a student, and what am I going to do? Do I care about how you feel as a student, and what am I going to do about it? You might imagine, my math people, that this creates 4 possibilities. 4 possibilities. So either we're going to act or we're not, we're going to care or not, right? And we're saying that the upper right quadrant is compassion, right? And so I was trying, now let me just tell you about this 3rd quadrant. I was trying to say the nicest thing possible because I had some words this morning. I was like, no, I just met these people, I can't use that word. No. So I just said the complement of compassion is in the 3rd quadrant. But if you don't care and you're not going to do anything, then not compassion. Okay. And so when we're at the bar, I'll say something else. Right. So yeah, so that's how I'm thinking about the compassionate math matrix. Right. So scenario 1, QR code just goes to a Padlet. I want to see what you think about this. I'm going to read it. It says, there's a big project for your class where students need it to submit on it by Friday. You've been talking about it 4 weeks. 4 weeks. 3 students do not turn in the assignment when you approach them about it. Here's what they say. Student A is like, I didn't feel like doing it. Student B says, my grandmother died last week and it was impossible for me to finish. Student C says, what project? What do you do? You can go there for, I'll click on that in just a second. We'll put up the Padlet. This is why we needed the internet. And then people will put stuff anonymously in there. We'll get some voices in this room to talk about how A, B, and C live in our classrooms. How do we respond to them? Where does compassion show up? Right? All of that. Good morning. Everyone's got the QR code? Okay, great. So I'm going to click on this. Now with Max, I'm always, some people like to double click. Is this a double? It is a double click. Yeah. Okay, great. And then I got to get it. This thing here. Thank you, people putting stuff in there already. Does this show big enough? Roughly. Right? So here's what I would do. Here's where compassion shows up for student A. Here's where compassion shows up for student B. We got a poll over there in column 5. Please fill that thing out. Would this be hard for any of these students for us to show compassion? It's anonymous. It's anonymous. Anyone need the QR code again?
Me.
Yes, thank you for that.
Realize that we're doing something.
Yeah. So
I was the student C.
no worries. There we go. There you go.
Yeah.
Where is it? Oh, there we go. QR code's right there.
For more than 50% of people, it's hard to have compassion.
What are people saying? Okay, thank you. Good, good, good. Here's where compassion shows up for student A. I would reach out to ask if there was anything going on and if there was anything I could do to get them started. Ask further questions. What's going on in your life? Why do you feel this way? Here's where compassion shows up for student B, my deepest sympathy, right? So let's just get right to it. I don't have that much time. Student B, we don't have a problem with, right? Student B, grandmother died. We're assuming you're telling the truth, right? Now, what does that have to do with compassion? What does that have to do with compassion? But what is compassion? I'm sorry. What is compassion? Empathy plus action. So what does this have to do with compassion, student B?
I mean, being human and offering an extension, carte blanche.
But what does
enough.
student B specifically have to do with compassion, our compassion?
Empathy,
Why?
because we can relate it to our own.
Right. That we all understand the loss of someone we may care about, right? And it hits us hard, right? And then it's one of these things like, okay, I understand, right? And so that's right. And then it's easy to do action, like the feeling of how we think about how they're feeling compels us to act. B is easy. My dream is that we ask those questions about the other two. Now, even anonymously, I found that people still lie to themselves. If student C says, what project? Why y'all lying? We know we would be frustrated, upset. That's why I put the 4 weeks part. 4 weeks we talked about this, and all of a sudden this person says, what project? Y'all gonna be mad, right? No, you're not gonna be mad at all.
Frustrated. Maybe the student was sick for those who.
No, and I honor the fact, you're right, and you've done the work, right? Benefit of the doubt, benefit of the doubt, I appreciate that, right? So I am generalizing, right? But I want to honor the fact that you've done the work, that requires work.
I would ask the student.
No, give me one moment. That I'm just saying that the response that you just had, I want to give you the credit that we don't come out saying, oh, benefit of the doubt. You don't come out with benefit of the doubt. You have to earn the right. You have to work on giving the benefit of the doubt. And the reason why I say that is because we work hard, right? So when we make these products for weeks, when we make this project, it becomes a part of the effort we put in, right? And then when we go and put in the effort to spend week after week in class and say, oh, this is due, this is due, this is due, and then somebody says, oh, what project? It can naturally, inherently feel like an affront. And we have to do the work, and you've done the work, and a lot of us in this room have done the work. That doesn't come for free. I'm just saying that. And that's part of the work that we have to do. And that's compassionate work, I want to say. Other hands. Was there a hand? Please.
I don't think it's an earful, and then once I get my feelings out, then I can go back to professor mode with my students.
Right, no, that's right, that's right. And there's this thing called the compass from Singleton in talking about courageous conversations about race, where you are going to end up in one of four different quadrants. It's important to say where you are. And that compass changed my marriage forever, right? Because it was like, I jumped into the logical quadrant, my wife jumped into the emotional quadrant, and that's perfectly fine. And it was important for me to recognize, oh, sometimes I'm in the emotional quadrant, and sometimes she's in the logical quadrant. By the way, when you're in different quadrants, you can't talk, right? Until you acknowledge that, oh, I'm in different quadrants, and then you can have this
What are
conversation.
the quadrants?
Say it again?
What are the quadrants?
So it's so I don't remember all of them exactly, but if you look up Courageous Conversations Compass, then you'll see the 4 places that you end up in, right? So one is like feeling, one is logic, one is moving, one is action. Like there's some things I hear, I'm ready to fight, or I'm ready to hug, or I'm ready to do something that's movement-wise, right? There are other spaces where I hear something I want to think. There are other spaces where I start crying. There are other spaces where I want to do something else, right? So that's it. Okay, great. So this looks fantastic. Okay, so then I'm very sorry for your loss. Okay, so then let me look at C. It's okay, it happens. I just want to make sure you have the bandwidth. How are you doing? Right, so what I like about this is that if I can escape and go here, right, is that we're thinking about how they're feeling. And this is one of the big things I learned from Jalan, is that this crucial question, how do my students feel if I do it this way? It changed my career. How does it feel? How do they feel? How do they feel? Now, that doesn't mean that you might do something different, but just asking it, right, comes up. How does it feel? What am I going to do about it? How does it feel? What am I going to do about it? How do they feel? What am I going to do about it? Scenario 2, didn't make a Padlet for it. When I open it up to the floor, you do a feedback form to get to know your students better, to figure out how things are going. Here's what one of your students wrote, or a few of your students wrote in the free response. Student A says, your work problems that talk about boys and girls render me invisible because I'm non-binary. Student B says, your work problems about cars were confusing because I never have played any type of card game. Student C says, I don't like work problems. Now I've actually got all 3 of these. So in my middle and high school that I found it, I got the first one, student A. I gave out a feedback form, it was anonymous. This person ended up saying who they were. Please.
I have a question to be more clear. By students, do we mean school students? Because for me, students are like university students and
Yeah.
there are pupils in the schools.
Yes, I teach in both spaces. But so that first response I got was from a 10th grader. A 10th grader, yeah. And then student B, that response was from a college student.
So when you say students, you mean both?
I mean both, yeah, I do mean both, yeah. Thank you for that, yeah. Floor is open, what are we gonna do for any of these students? What are you gonna ask first? That's the first question we ask. What's compassion? What's compassion again?
Empathy and action.
Empathy plus action, right? And so the first thing we have, what's the empathy?
How's it feel?
How does it feel? So how does student A feel, potentially? Invisible. Crucial question. Good morning. Do we want a class? Do we want a class where students feel invisible? It's a yes or no question. No. And by the way, there's something about just like a sense of emergency that this is happening. Good morning. Under our purview. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And I failed miserably at this one. Right? Because what was the first thing that I thought? It's like, oh my God, I gotta go in and find all these. I don't want to tell you that. Right? That's like, it's not embarrassing anymore, but like, I'm not proud to say that. The same thing happened. Oh my goodness. I just met y'all. Why am I saying all these things? This would always happen back in the day when I would get the email from disability services. And I say, oh my God, I gotta do all this. I gotta do more work. I gotta. Right? Because it's about me. It's been about me for so long. Compassion dictates that it's not about you, because the first question is, how do they feel? How do they feel, right? And I've gotten better, right? And so thankfully in the middle of high school, right? So, you know, the first week was this week. It's only 30 students, right? It's a small space. And so this was one person in the class. And so, you know, I was able to, you know, get around, do things. But I just thought about this initial reaction. They're like, oh, like burden for me, right? Compassion dictates that it's not about you, right? Now that one was at Gwinnett College, where I'm an associate professor, and then that's just Pearson. Pearson's just throwing out all these problems, right? And it's just like they show you the deck, and they think that just because you can click on the button, they show you the deck, the 52 cards, and everything's good. And then I got people from international students, and they're just like, what's this? What's a club? What's a diamond, right? All this whole thing, right? And so that one was easier, particularly because that example came after the first one, right? And so now, you know, this is just training, right? You just have to get in the habit of being like, okay, I've got to make this change. Student C, right? It's one of these things, and people were doing this in the last Padlet. Like you have to take some time, because this question of how do they feel, you don't have a lot of information, right? And so this means that you got to go a little bit further with this person. Like, what does that mean? And so what can I do based upon how you feel about it, right? I always think I'm going to use a clicker, and I never use a clicker. So for me, this notion of compassion has to do about the care part and about, you know, enough. Right? And also partly this feel, right? So, you know, what does it mean for us to care, right? And so when somebody simply says that, oh, I don't like word problems, we could just leave it there, right? When somebody says something else, it just feels like, oh, well, I could take it. Do I care enough? I'll leave with this. I'll end with this, and then we can talk about questions. If nothing else, if we do nothing else, when somebody walks into your classroom, can you look like you're happy to see them?
Yeah.
Right? Do your eyes light up? And this is particularly true for the high school and middle school. Like I have been trained to just stand there and they walk in. It's like, good morning. I'm happy to see you today, right? And as we start classes next week and the next couple of weeks, let's just do that. Let's just get at the front, and when they walk in, you be happy to see them. And oh, by the way, you might want to be happy to see them just because.
Yeah.
Right? Just because. Why is that? What an honor it is to play any role. Oh my goodness. To play any role in the educational journey of young people. Let us remind ourselves that when you look at a young person, they are trying to change the trajectory of their lives. What a miracle. And some of them don't even know that yet, right? But they're in front of you, right? And we know that all you have to do is say the right thing, look at them the right way, their life changes forever. What a gift. What a gift. I'll end there and then I'll take questions. Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker?
Go ahead.
Just a comment about that last bit. Yeah, so I'm motivated by sardonic and black humor very frequently. And so very often I'm just genuinely excited that anyone shows up to my classes. So it is very easy to be excited for everyone who shows up.
Please.
I'm just wondering if you have strategies for increasing your capacity if you feel like you're doing a lot of compassion sort of at a large scale. Hundreds of students.
Yeah.
Make sure you're being okay.
No, you and I know each other
Yeah.
well. And so I want to honor the fact some people are put in impossible situations. And like you, right? And there's some others. There was one I was in New York. I think it was in Math for America. So at the high school level, I mean, some people have 35 students for 47 minutes, right? And so the way that I think about it is that the way we scale this is that could it be possible that over in the college space, over 3 months, 2 classes a week for 16 weeks, 32 classes, maybe some office hours, can you spend some time with each person for 5 minutes where they understand for those 5 minutes you don't care about anything else in the world except for them? Just for 5 minutes, right? And we know that interactions like that can stay with someone for the rest of their career, right? And so thinking about this, planning out, right, can I spend 5 minutes with you, 3 minutes with you? And sometimes that happens, particularly in the middle and high school, where we're just going to have to talk about stranger things. Right? We're just going to have to talk about it before we get started. And then they need to talk about an episode they saw, how it resonated with them. And then, as you might imagine, they're ready to participate and raise their hand, unlike on other days where they come in and they just do that. But just doing that micro thing. But I'm very protective of you in particular to capacity, because I already know you work too hard. So, yeah, and embedded in this, of course, is some of the stuff that I wrote, it's going to depend on you and what your bandwidth is. And I'm not coming in here and saying being a Mother Teresa, right? Just, again, thinking about those 2 questions. How does that make my students feel? What is it that I want to do? Thank you for that. Others, please.
I would be interested to hear you talk a little bit, and this might be beyond the scope, but the first scenario 1 was scenario in which students A and C are doing something that's going to piss off most instructors, right? And so the sort of the first step is let me not just act like you're a problem and try to get inside your head.
Yes.
So say we were there. Say we're there. We got inside their head. Yeah. Now, the next step, depending on the student and you and your relationship, might be some tough love.
Ooh, tough love. Go ahead. Yes.
The question I'm posing is because my default setting, I don't have a tough love default set. My internal machinery is forbearance is my first move.
Meaning what?
Meaning if unless I'm stuck on the first step that we already said we're past, if I'm not stuck on that step, then I'm gonna be basically okay, one more time.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That kind of forbearance.
Yeah.
I remember a conversation I had with a student about 2 or 3 years ago, which was a student I knew well. We had a relationship that had built a lot already.
Yeah.
So I was in a position to get away with this. but I said something to the effect of, I'm bad at tough love, you know I'm bad at tough love, it's not natural to me.
Yeah.
I think it's what you need right now.
Yeah.
And that was a productive conversation.
Yes.
But, like, how, I guess I would love to hear you talk a little bit about how that type of thing fits into your thinking.
Oh, no, it's very difficult, and I have to leave it up to each individual. There's no doubt about it. There's some people I've cussed out.
Mhm.
There's some people I've been like super caring of, right? And it's so like, JB was in my Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 in the high school, middle school and high school, and I had enough.
Mhm.
Now, and so I want to be clear about that because it sounds like it's about me again. What I'm saying is that, that there was a pattern that needed to be interrupted, and I was trying to, that what was happening was not creating the life that JB deserved.
Right.
And so I needed to talk to JB and say, look, this is unacceptable, right? And with the prefacing that I'm rolling with you, and I'm old, and so 25 to 30 years, I've watched students go this direction, right? And here is what is required for what I want you to have in your life. And you are not meeting it, right? And so I'm telling you this because I love you, right? And so I'm about to be hard on you, but this is unacceptable. Here's why, and here's what you are going to need to start doing, right? Otherwise, right, I'm going to be worried about you, right? But I'm telling you this because I care about you. Now, the other thing why it's very personal is because I'm right now staying at the place where I grew up. My daughter is there in the place that I grew up. And I'm staying in my old room, and she's staying in a room bigger than me, which, right, with the ego aside. But like, yeah, she's enjoying that. But I bring this up because that was the house where my grandmother raised me. After my father died, I went to live with her. And as I get older, I understand a little bit about what it means. She was a 63-year-old raising an 11-year-old, right? And so I'm raising a 14-year-old, and that's already hard enough to be 63 to do it. But I learned all my work ethic from her, and she was absolutely amazing. And she told me to stay away from white women. And she told me to stay away from white women, right, for A, B, and C. And so when your heroes tell you that, right, so you might imagine, ooh, let's get real. You might imagine that my office hours for young white women were different than my office hours. You might imagine that I might shut some doors with people, but never shut my door with a white woman. You might imagine, right? So that all of that stuff, we're not talking about right or wrong, that's something that I have to deal with, right? My experience now impacts how I'm talking with people. So I have never cussed out a white woman, right? Even though they needed to be, right? Even though they needed the hard love. You're not going to, so, and by the way, I'm still working on that, right? But that's what I mean. That's why it's complicated. And that's why you're not going to get a prescription from me about, oh, do this for this person, do this for this person. You have to be really paying attention about what this person might need. And oh, by the way, you might get it wrong, right? But this is why I keep saying the L word. Like, I want to support you, and so I'm going to give you tough love because this is what is happening. And you can ignore me, but my due diligence is to show love in this way. Thank you for that. Time-wise?
2 minutes.
Oh, great.
1 minute.
1 minute. 1 minute. I'll make it quick. We got one more. All right, thank you. Aris.winger@gmail.com is my email address. Go to ariswinger.com if you forget the email address. But thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.